What's going on, Colts Nation? Welcome back to another episode of Bring the Juice. Couple more coaching announcements that need to be made today. You can tell by the title of this video. The first one was reported by Stephen Holder was that former NFL safety Mike Mitchell is going to be joining the Colts secondary staff. He's going to be the assistant defensive backs coach for Indianapolis. He was a NFL safety for many years, was around the league for around 10 to plus years. So, he's been around to multiple teams, played with Indianapolis towards the end of his career, and now wants to get into coaching. That's the big one, or the first one that I'll talk about. Mike Mitchell being an assistant in that defensive backs group. We know that we've already signed someone for that, but we're going to see how that ties into it. But again, a former player coming in and doing this for Indianapolis, you wonder how he'll be able to connect with those players, be able to understand how things work. That'll be another great addition for Indianapolis. And then the big one that needs to be talked about, and I was looking at Joel Erickson's thing earlier, was that Nathan Ollie is going to be the next defensive line coach for Indianapolis. He spent the previous 3 seasons as an assistant defensive line coach. In 2019 and 2020 was the assistant defensive line coach for the Philadelphia Eagles, learned under Jim Schwartz. And then this last season was the assistant defensive line coach under Robert Saleh. So, this guy has been around a bunch of different defensive schemes, has been around a couple of different defensive minds that understand how defenses work. He has learned from some of the best in the league when it comes to getting the best out of their defenses. So not a ton of NFL experience, but I will say this, my guy, Destin Adams from the Blue Stable, shout out to you, my guy, saw his Twitter the other day or this morning and stated that before Ollie jumped to the NFL, he was actually a defensive line coach at Eastern Kentucky University, and then posted a quote talking about what his head coach at the time stated about Ollie's coaching style. And I'll read that to you right now. Coach Ollie is a very good technician who builds great relationships with his players, head coach Mark Elder said. He has tremendous energy and gets the defensive line playing physical and with outstanding effort. That's a great quote to hear from a former college head coach from a position guy like that. The technician part, that's great. I love hearing that because that's what the Colts need, is guys to be able to become more technically sound on the defensive line, right? Building great relationship with players. That's great. That's exactly what you want to do, because we know with Brian Baker and what went wrong with him sometimes in the past few years was there were some guys I don't know if he had grudges against, but he certainly played favorites in how some things went down in the system. And this is something that can turn off a relationship with a player, is, not understanding the circumstances of how that needs to go. So it's great news that, he would be able to build a relationship with players. I know it's a little different from college than what it is in the NFL, but hearing a former head coach of his say that brings good things out of it. The energy and effort, right? Energy, physicalness, and effort. That is all great things that this defensive line can definitely benefit from. Again, this has me very excited, guys. I know that there's been a lot of chatter recently about, some of the, being critical of who the Colts are going for and who we aren't going for, right? But I think that for a young guy that has learned from some great defensive minds in this league early on in his career, and from a guy who was highly regarded by his coaches in college, I think that it is a very important note that this is fresh blood for the Indianapolis Colts here. This is a new opportunity. This is a new guy. This is something he's not used to at the moment, but you hope that what he's able to bring you is a new level of effort and energy from this group that we didn't see under Brian Baker, right? We've kind of been talking about that a little bit, right? With the secondary group, we've been saying, we need to get some fresh blood in here, man. We need some new guys. Get us some new names. Not just the same old retreads that keep going around the league that just aren't that good, right? Well, this guy apparently matches Gus Bradley's mentality of energy and aggressiveness very well. So this is all great news. Again, I'm not going to bash the guy for him being kind of inexperienced in this. This is his first time being a defensive line coach for any team, a main defensive line coach. So we're going to find out whether he flops or whether he succeeds. And, he's got some great defensive linemen to work with. He's got DeForest Buckner to work with. He's got a guy like Grover Stewart. He's got a guy like Dayo Odeyingbo who's coming into this offseason as healthy as he's ever been. Kwity Paye off the edge, and maybe the Colts go and get somebody else. He has a fresh group here, but he has some names there that hopefully he can start getting more out of in the pass rushing department. That's going to do it for this one specifically, guys. Just a really short one for you. Let me know in the comments what you think of the Colts hiring Nathan Ollie as their next defensive line coach and Mike Mitchell as an assistant defensive backs coach for the foreseeable future. Thank you guys again so much for tuning in. Thank you for the support. And as always, go Colts.